Welcome to Understanding the Bible with Pastor Stephen. This is Season 2, Episode 50, Reasons for an Atheist to Read the Bible. So I just wanted to pose some logical things on why anyone should actually read the Bible, or even better yet, why you should allow it to be read to your children, young developing minds. And this is why. First of all, there is a great argument for reading ancient manuscripts. We read the Iliad and the Odyssey, we read Plato, Socrates, etc. Anyone from the ancient world that took the time and effort to write things down is amazing. And if we are able to capture that and have those ancient manuscripts, it is a passing down of thoughts, cultures, sociology, science, everything that the people thought thousands of years ago that you would have no other way of knowing if we didn't have these manuscripts, all right? So the Bible is actually the greatest collection of them all. It is actually two collections, the Old and the New Testament, totaling 66 books, over 2,000 years old. Now, the newest of these 66 books was written in about 90 AD by a man exiled by the Roman Empire. John, he wrote the book of Revelation, the last book. Now, there's 26 other books also written in the first century in the New Testament. Now, here's the fascinating thing about it. Those authors quoted more ancient authors to them over 280 times in these 27 books of the New Testament. Those ancient authors to the ancient people of 2,000 years ago, the idea that we could have those books is mind-boggling, and we do in the Old Testament. We have 39 books that were quoted in the Old Testament. The oldest of those is Job. Some people think it was written around 1900 BC, others 1400, some 2200 BC. But regardless, if you average out those years, that's about 2,000 years before Christ. So now we're talking 4,000-year-old. Now, here's the cool thing about the Bible. It is the most vetted of ancient manuscripts in the entire world, with over 24,000 manuscripts in the original languages that verify the dates of the writings and the words themselves. So the historical, philosophical, social, and scholarly value of those ancient manuscripts is itself a reason to read them. Considering that every other classical work that is viewed as valuable pales in comparison to the number of documents, the length of the documents, the age of the documents, and verified by other external governments, contemporary authors, and ancient works. The Bible is the best of all ancient manuscripts that we have available to us in this modern age. So that's reason number one. Reason number two to read it would be scientific accuracy, and I've covered this in multiple podcasts. The encouragement of scientific thought, all the way up to actual discoveries made because of the Bible. Like, for instance, the ocean currents discovered by Matthew Murray in the 1850s, due specifically to Psalms chapter 8. The Bible has demonstrated time and again that it holds scientific knowledge thousands of years ahead of its time. Just listen to last week's podcast. The Bible is responsible for the formation of the scientific community in the entire Western world. Every major institution of learning in America was founded because of the Bible. On the basis that if God created things to be orderly, then we can discover how those things work. And so the Bible was used as the reason for scientific discovery and thought and education. So that scientific knowledge contained in the Bible is another reason number two to read. Now, the third reason, which I'm going to get into in more detail in future podcasts, is the historical and archaeological accuracy. Most people don't know it. They think it's a book of old fables, but it's not. Many times in the Bible, in history, there have been disputed stories of the Bible, kings, governments, historical events that people thought were just made up fables that have since been proven by archaeology to have actually existed. Let me give you two examples. Names. Job. Oh, he's an ancient made-up character, probably made up by the forefathers of the Jewish religion back when they wrote the Torah. Job is found in the Amarna letters. That's Amarna in 1350 BC, and the Egyptian execration texts circa 2000 BC. So a character in the Bible is written of in other ancient manuscripts that have been verified to be accurate. Now, here's an archaeological fact as well as a king. The cubit was previously assumed to be a made-up measurement for a Bible story. However, it was discovered engraved in stone in 1837 and used to measure the length of King Hezekiah's tunnel. King Hezekiah was also thought to be a fake Bible name before they discovered that. That's yet another reason, the historical and archaeological value of the book, the accuracy of the books of the Bible. Here's one that most people just overlook, but in America, we used to use the Bible as a textbook in all of our schools when our school system first came about. Well, the value as simply a good book, as a scholarly value, is astronomical. For instance, just the syntax and the grammar, the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language, both in Hebrew and in Greek, if you're given to classical reading, but also in the Old English. Think about it this way. We used to teach people, or at least when I grew up, I don't know if they still do it because we don't teach anything in our public schools anymore, but we used to teach people to read Shakespeare in the Old English for the same reason. Just the inherent beauty of the language and to learn the structure and the syntax, the grammar involved. Now, here's the other thing, just as a good book. The Bible, 66 books, right, has stories for every taste as well as every character imaginable to capture the attention of all people. So if you want a book just to read, to teach people reading, to get a good story, to understand grammar, to understand how to put stories together, holy crap, the Bible's got it all. So many cultures talked about in the Bible, spanning time periods from 3000 BC to the first century. Characters from, you have prostitutes to warriors, philosophers and kings, shepherd boys, artists, fishermen, dreamers, slaves, rulers of kingdoms, angels, demons, fantastic beasts like dragons, and even a talking donkey. I mean, the Bible has everything. And if you want to talk, genres of literature, it's got history, it's got poetry, it's got science, romance, adventure, science fiction, war stories, spies, everyday country living, normal people. It's got everything. For a collection of stories, when you go to English lit class and you read Chaucer or some of the other literary geniuses, the Bible was the primary book that people used to teach in our schools just for the literary value. So the scholarly literary value of the Bible should speak for itself. If you're a teacher, if you're educated, if you've actually read some classical works, you would see that. If not, I challenge you to pick up the Bible and read through. Now, here's another thing too. Again, this is my strong argument for why to read the Bible and teach Bible stories to your children. The basic principles of the Bible are, now I'm kind of fudging it a little bit because I know it's about Jesus Christ in heaven and the afterlife, okay? But basically, it talks about the fact that there is a God who knows all. There is good and evil. You must do good because you will be judged for your thoughts, words, and actions. Since when is teaching that to a child a bad thing, that you have to do good? Well, everybody knows that that's a good thing to teach children because we teach Aesop's Fables to teach our kids morality. And they're fun little stories like the boy who cried wolf, the ant and the grasshopper, the race of the tortoise and the hare, things that you guys have all heard, I'm sure. Aesop Fables, I think it was like 400 BC is when they were discovered. It's about 700 short stories, or people have different numbers on that. Some people say only 200 and whatnot. But there's only a few manuscripts of these made up stories about talking animals. And we teach them to our kids. We put them in public schools and in grade schools and read them to kindergarten and publish books on them to spread these fanciful stories that we know teach a moral lesson. So it's okay to teach a moral lesson to children if it comes from a talking animal, but it's not okay to teach a moral lesson from other human beings. Because that's what the Bible is other human beings telling, good versus evil. So you have to understand that a developing child learning to temper his thoughts, words, and actions to consider whether they're truly good or not because God is watching is a desirable trait, whether or not you believe in God, whether or not they choose not to believe in God as they get older. They reach 10, 11, 12 years old, they hit puberty and they start asking questions, then they decide not to believe in God and stop reading the Bible. Okay, cool. Well, now they've got this ingrained sense of morality that there's a good and an evil. Why is that wrong? That's a good reason to teach the Bible, to read the Bible, to have your kids read the Bible. Just on that principle alone, the moral value. Now, here's the last one that I wanted to bring up is that the cultural significance to your daily life should prompt you to want to investigate and read the Bible. What year is it? Right now it's 2023 AD, Anno Domini, the year of the reign of our Lord. It's based on the birth of Jesus Christ. I did a whole podcast on that. Previously, every culture based dates on their culture, their kings, their dynasties. The entire world has since recognized that Jesus Christ made such an impact on the world that it would be an honorable thing to forgo their individual country's way of measuring years and to base it on the birth of Jesus Christ. The entire earth does this, or at least recognizes that when they travel to other countries that the whole earth does this. There may be some countries I'm not aware of that don't use AD. And I know we're switching to BC and, the Common Era, which is an attempt to erase Jesus Christ from our history, which is really retarded. But it is AD. Isn't that reason enough to read the books written about him and by his disciples who actually walked and talked with this person who has impacted your life 2,000 years later when you write the date or check your watch to see what day it is? Or when you click buy on Amazon and it says it will arrive by December 15th, 2023. That's an acknowledgement that Jesus Christ was a real, verified historical figure that made such an impact on the human condition that we honor him with the date every single day. Wouldn't you want to find out who this guy is and learn a little bit about him? Shouldn't that give you a spark of curiosity as to why this person was so culturally, socially, and humanly relevant that it affects your life today? That's what Jesus Christ did. And that's not even going into the spiritual stuff. I'm talking just as a human being, just as a logical adult that can think about good things. These are all good reasons to read the Bible. I would highly encourage you to look deeply at those facts. It's an ancient manuscript, the most verified ancient manuscript in the history of humanity. It is scientifically accurate. It is historically accurate. The scholarly value is insurmountable. The moral value, if you have children, is staggering. And the cultural significance to your day-to-day life every time you read the date ought to blow your mind and bring you a little bit of curiosity as to why. Read the Bible. Check it out for yourself. If you have any questions, email me, angrypatriot42@yahoo.com. And until next time, may God bless you all.